Long nights and early mornings, feeling misunderstood and lonely, constant hard work and self-doubt. This is all part of having the courage to chase your dreams and become successful. Are you going to take the risk? I have, and it's worth it. Don't be afraid to take risk and fail. These are the experiences that will help you grow and evolve into a better version of yourself. Start today, be better tomorrow.
Welcome to the JA Guam podcast. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the host and guests, and not necessarily to Junior Achievement Guam or its affiliates.
Welcome everybody to week 7 of this year's program. We're really excited. Today we're going to be talking about pivoting within organizations and within your companies. So as usual, we have Pinki Lujan, who is our executive director, and she'll let you know what's happening this week and kind of give you an update, but mainly what you're supposed to be doing next week. We also have KUAM in the house. We have Marie Calvo-Monge in the house, who is the CEO of KUAM, and the sales manager, Krista Gaza, who both of them are the new sponsors for JA and the advisors for their company. So we'll talk to them a little bit about what it's like to be advisors. And then we'll get into Kathy Calvo from Payless, and she will talk about pivoting and some of the things that they've had to do through with Payless markets. Okay, let's hear from Pinki first. What's going on this week, Pinki, and what do the students need to be really focused on next week?
Thanks, Meg. So this week is week 7, and what the company should be focusing on is fully implementing their company. That means they should already be producing their products. If they're offering a certain product, they should be implementing their marketing campaign. And most importantly, a little twist, a little different from last year, because we're going virtual completely with the program this year, is we're not requiring the companies to produce a commercial. What we want them to do this year, because we're having virtual trade fairs instead of physical trade fairs. In the past, if you recall, we've had trade fairs like at the center court of Micronesian Mall or GPO or Agani Shopping Center, where people are physically able to, while they're shopping for Christmas and whatnot, they just kind of visit all the different booths, and they are judged. The companies are judged by how they present their booth and how they promote and sell their product or service. So now that we're going virtual, we are going to be, and thanks KUAM for supporting and helping us with this. They're our guest for today's podcast, is we are doing virtual trade fairs. And so we're going to be giving out the information and the dates shortly. But long story short, you will be judged on your pitch. And so I just wanted to touch a little bit on that. So you're preparing how you're going to offer your product or services online, virtually, via this new platform, this virtual platform. So instead of looking at your booth visually, you need to be considering, the students need to think about how they're going to present themselves on the screen, so to speak. So take me, for example. I'm wearing a little hoodie and a casual shirt, and my hair is down, but I've got a little bit of makeup, just some lipstick. So you have to consider your appearance when you join this virtual trade fair. So how are you going to appear visually? Will you have some marketing material or banners in the back? What are you appealing to? Are you looking professional? Will everybody show up? Are you going to be in a suit and tie? Or, so you really got to consider who your target market is and who your ideal customer is going to be. And that's how you're going to present yourself, right? And then the team spirit. Is everyone going to be on together? Will you, how are you going to be presenting yourself? And again, KUAM will hopefully help us with that and give us some tips and tricks on that. So, and then the company, don't forget, you're going to be judged. What did you mention your company name? Who are you? What's your mission? What's your vision? What is the solution or the problem that you're addressing with regards to your product and service? So that's important. And then what is the product itself, or what is the service? So you really got to plan that, plan the script, plan the presentation, and all that comprises of the pitch. And today, this week's podcast, we're super excited because we have the professionals on our guest list. They're going to give us some tips and tricks on how they've been able to diversify. We also have Payless on, which I'm super excited because they just launched their online curbside delivery system, which I personally am super excited about, because it's going to, encourage the protocol of being safe, practicing safe distance and all that fun stuff. So now we'll be able to provide a service such as this. So kudos to you, Kathy Calvo, for bringing us into the new century, right? This is the new normal, so to speak. And then sales skills. You're going to need to consider your approach, your presentation, and then handle objections. What if someone asks a question? Are you going to open up the panel for that? Will that be something that we'll be able to do while we're in the virtual marketplace? So that's something that maybe Krista or Marie can address today, if there's going to be some degree of interaction, if people have questions about the products that are going to be offered during this virtual trade fair. And then your closing. How are you going to collect that money and seal the deal, so to speak? So these are all the criteria that the students and the companies will have to consider going forward. And the trade fairs, like I said, we're going to be announcing the dates shortly. But thanks, Meg. And my doors are open, my phone. You can call me, email me if you need anything, or if you have any questions, because it's do or die time, man. It's, just get everybody excited, get your team excited, and just ask any questions if you have any questions. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the update, and we'll see you next week. So now let's go in and talk a little bit to Krista and Marie, because KUAM is a new sponsoring company this year. So they're getting to understand what it's like to work with a bunch of these students. They're getting to know a little bit what junior achievement does. So I'm just going to open up the mic, and both Krista and Marie, just, how are you liking it so far? And, what kind of things are you discovering working with the students?
I'm very familiar with JA. I had one of my daughters was involved a few years ago. And, we've always supported JA through the media and giving them a platform. But this is the first time we've been involved as, with a team. And I actually, for me personally, I was, excited to take on this role because, one, I'm an empty nester. And I'm having withdrawals from having teenagers around the house, but also because I felt like, in the past, just the nature of JA, we love the program, we love what it does and what it, inspires in our youth. But at KUAM, we have a small operation. We just weren't sure that we could accommodate a team. When, because of COVID and it's segueing into a virtual environment, I thought, okay, we could totally do this in the virtual, on the virtual landscape. So it's been exciting in that regard. There's a lot of work involved, even virtually. It's still, and Krista can speak to that as well. But it's great. I mean, you have these very ambitious, headstrong, creative kids who have all this energy, which I'm glad to see, because I really wasn't sure how, how mentally our youth were doing, in this environment, if they would adapt to all these changes that we've had to undergo. And they have risen to the occasion, or at least our group. Krista and I are exhausted after these meetings. So, with that said, it's been fun. It's a lot of work. these kids are amazing. They're very ambitious. They have lofty goals, and we're just trying to be there to be support, mentor, and help them achieve what they want to achieve and be successful at it. So Krista can add to it, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I think that's it, is that I was hoodwinked into this when I first joined AK 28 years ago. And it was exactly that. It was, and after I started working with the students, again, 27 years, I'm still on it. They are so inspiring and, motivated and going. But it's a lot of work. So Krista, how about you? I mean, you've been around JA, you've helped us out in a few different ways. But this is your first time actually being an advisor, which is a very different role.
It is. Thank you for having us on here this morning. I have had a number of different experiences with JA, like you said. This has been by far the most exciting. Like I find myself in the mornings when I'm getting up and I'm organizing my day. Okay, JA is part of my day, and that's not something that you would expect, and it's an exciting part of my day. I am more than thrilled with the motivation and ambition of the kids that we have on our team, to the point where we've had to pull in the reins a little bit with some of their ideas and some of the things that they want to do. I am impressed with their diplomacy and with their wanting to be not just leadership, but leadership with purpose. So they're trying really hard to be the best role models they can be for their team, to the point where it's almost a fault. We have laughed, Marie and I together, several times with votes and revotes. And okay, this is the third time we're voting. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, half of the meeting has been voting. But they really care about what each other is thinking and what purpose they're serving on this team and through this business. And so I think Marie and I both have been impressed by that aspect more than anything else. The other cute part about it is when you help mentor them, you see the light bulbs turn on, and that is rewarding in and of itself. We go through that, on a daily basis with some of our employees or with people that we work with, when we come up with a great idea or they come up with a great idea and our light bulb comes on. But to have it so centralized in this group is really neat. It's a neat experience. And I would encourage any companies out there who have been around JA, who understand what JA is, but think maybe, I just don't have the time to do this. You have the time, and you should make the time to do it, because it really is a rewarding experience. And we've only been in it for a couple weeks, but it really is a really neat experience that every business person, I think, should go through, especially people who are in sales and marketing, and people who have a passion for entrepreneurship, for sure. I just think it's a really neat experience, and I thank JA for giving us this opportunity.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think really, I just like to add that what Krista was saying about the diplomacy and how impressive it is to see that these young leaders are really, some of it, like Krista said, we have to pull the the reins and kind of just give them advice from being in the real world. But, they are truly on their way. They are cordial, they're organized, and it's gratifying for me. I'm inspired by them and seeing that they sometimes give you inspiration to take what they do. They have those core values, and we need more of that in our youth. And so again, I think it's mutually gratifying. I feel that I'm getting a lot out of this experience as well.
Oh yeah, and some of these students, you can see hiring them in another 4 years. Whether it's, you want them on your team. They got some. This is such great skills. And same thing, like you're saying, I mean, I used to tell people all the time, as far as advisors go, yeah, if you have middle managers or supervisors who want to get into management and leadership, JA is a great job to sponsor, because it's like on, it's, you're mentoring with what you're supposed to do as a manager, right? It's not just about managing people. You manage, numbers, but you lead people. So this is really about leading others. So if you want to learn how to lead others, and it's also a business acumen course, right? You got a lot of people that have come up through the ranks, but they really don't know business. So JA, doing with these students, it teaches the advisors business acumen. So I think it's very great. And we love.
Yeah, it really does. That's one of the things that I would encourage anybody who is looking to improve their leadership skills, just even tuning into your podcasts. It really shows you that you can have faith in the upcoming generation, that they have their heads on straight. And it's kind of nice because it's teaching you how to manage a younger generation. And so everybody always says about the millennials, it was difficult for us and our generation to learn how to manage millennials. This is the same situation. The millennials could learn to manage the Gen Zers. It's really a neat organization and a neat way to perpetuate business. It's cool.
Yeah. And one of the things I really like, Krista, is we had a conversation last night for a few minutes, and you were saying how the students were doing some different things that, I didn't necessarily agree, but they're doing their own thing, right? And I think one of the things that you guys have already latched onto is it's their company. And that's where, sponsoring companies really have to be careful that they aren't in it to win it. And so the advisors take over and let me do this, let me do that. It's the students have to learn. It's a learning experience. It's not really, the win is what they learn. It's not winning company of the year as much as what do they learn, and then the ones that keep coming back year after year. So that's what it's really all about. So go ahead, Maria.
Sorry, you say that, and Krista and I have had some conversations on the side, because we're both very, if you know us, when we gel, the wheels, just get in motion and we are like full speed ahead, right? And so we've had to really, taking from what we got in the mentor company orientation about how we're just there to advise and to mentor, but it is their company, it's their ideas. You're just there to help move it along and to, help them troubleshoot. So we've had to kind of pull back at times and bite our tongues when we are like, I don't know if this idea is, we step in when we need to, but you have to let them kind of navigate through the situation, and that was, imparted to us in the very first session. And I think that it's been a discipline, and we're working, in progress. But for the most part, it's been good for us to kind of with this role to do that.
Yeah, because leadership is really about trust. It's about trusting other people that they're going to do it. Let them fall on their face. Let them make the mistakes. As long as they're not making the same mistake over and over again, that's fine. That's how they learn. One of the things as parents, mine are older also, but it's, you don't want them to fail. You want to give them all these things, but that's how they learn. So I really just think this is great. So we're going to go ahead and Kathy, so one of the things, especially with you two on, a lot of times in JA, halfway through or whatever, this year's a little bit different because they don't have all these sports and debate and all these other things that they used to be involved in. So what's different this year is, because we're doing something different, we have the students, but a lot of times midway through or near the end of it, when you have to do that liquidation report and the annual report, people just kind of like start fading away and they leave. And all of a sudden you only have 2 officers left. So that's why we really talk about succession planning and moving up and making sure you have that backup plan. And so, a lot of times at the end, when it comes to doing that final presentation on the stage, you don't have anybody to do it. So that's what I call when, crap hits the fan. Trying to watch my language here. So I want to introduce Kathy, bring Kathy on. And the reason why I wanted Kathy here today is because, I'm sure you're having a fantastic year this year, sales-wise and everything, because people are starting to make their own food, do all the things they have to do. But they've had to pivot so much just within the stores themselves. Sumai is my store, but I just see the changes within the stores and the stuff coming off the shelves and how people are helping us, when you walk into the stores. And like I said, you have a few other things. So, Kathy, you've had plenty happen. I'm sorry?
Thank you for having me, Meg. And before I discuss our Payless story, I really want to thank KUAM for being a sponsor today. These are really challenging times, and we do realize it takes time because Payless has been in your shoes in the past. As a matter of fact, it really is a win-win situation. Our prior controller was organizing it from the Payless end, and it encouraged him to be, he ended up being an adjunct professor, I believe it was GCC. But it also gives the company an opportunity to assess skills, and it can be an introduction into our own company. And we've seen that in some cases. And from a student standpoint, it gives you a chance to see the minds and the strategies and how a company operates. So it's truly a win-win situation for students and companies. And I'd like to thank you, Meg. You play such a critical role. You've been involved with JA for more than decades. And it really, you've been monumental in this organization. So with regard to pivoting, this year has been definitely a year of change. The food business is one that thrives on flexibility and adaptation. The food chain business is dynamic, and we are in constant flux with what goes on globally. But this year, more than any other year, Payless was ready to celebrate our 70th year anniversary, and all of that took a real change in February. Actually, we started hearing grumblings about what was going on in the mainland, and in some respects, we were fortunate that it gave us an opportunity to start planning. We had all our orders in the pipeline. We were planning out the year, and then all of a sudden, you can plan for a typhoon, you can think ahead about batteries, and you can kind of stockpile with butane gas, but you can't really plan out a pandemic. So a lot of this was something we had to learn to adapt and really think ahead with what resources we had. So what ended up happening right when the pandemic first hit Guam, we immediately started looking at local wholesalers and started to stock up on what we could that was readily available on island. And fortunately, it took maybe about a month before we started to feel the true effects of some of our out of stocks. If you went into our store, what you saw happening in the mainland was not exactly congruent with what was happening on Guam. We didn't initially have out of stocks with toilet paper. Some of that came later on. But what we started to see was change in consumer habits. We started to see people cooking more. We saw that our digital media was all of a sudden, our websites were blowing up. Our YouTube, we saw a 40% increase in YouTube. We saw Instagram growing incredibly. People wanted instant information. And so we utilized that to a wide degree. We ended up being much more aggressive with our digital media. We started putting more YouTube on how our Chaggy, on recipes. And so there is a whole shift in consumer habits, in companies were popping up selling, people out of nowhere were selling sanitizers, masks. Actually, to this date, it's the small businesses who are fast to think about what I could do and positioning themselves, looking for resources. We've got local companies selling reusable masks that are doing so well. It makes me so happy that we're signing checks for local companies who are doing masks, selling products, and being innovative. We ended up, Payless had to set aside, obviously, all our 70th anniversary plans, but we've started to look at local companies and how we could synergize our efforts. We now sell salads from CPK, from Pika's. So we were able to fill in some of the gaps with companies that had pivoted and were no longer mainstream restaurants. There was a situation, obviously, with Kitchen Lingo and the Cuddle House. They ended up closing their doors, but we opened up our door, and now they're very successful in managing our market deli in Mighty Payless. So there's a lot that a company can do for students. When you're in a situation, it's important to really think outside of the box. You create a program, but sometimes market conditions would impact your plan. It's important to plan, have a plan in place, have a marketing plan, have a business plan, but you always have to think about a plan B and what you can do to pivot from that. Our buyers have been very successful in looking for other resources. I can't say that we've got all our shelves 100% full because that's not the case. Globally, manufacturers and suppliers have had a lot of gaps in from the production of a product. A lot of the byproducts come from China. And so there's been a lot of packaging changes. Big manufacturers have gone from 10 SKUs in variety. They've started to scale down into the top 3. And I think as a company, that's what's really important. You cannot any longer in these times think of multiple varieties. It's really narrowing it down to the essential top items. So has Payless pivoted? Have we changed? Absolutely. We still continue to have our consumers, their health, customer service is top of mind, but we've had to make a lot of adjustments in our business plan and our marketing plan, and it's going to be continuous adaptation. Are things going to continue into 2021? We don't know, but we're continuing to plan in this mode. We have plans for, we're already starting plans for renovation of our new store. So as we continue to work with the changes that we're in right now, it's important to also plan for ahead. And that's, I think that's what's really important for businesses.
When it comes to people, I'm going to use people, and Marie and Krista, jump in if you want. What's been your biggest challenge people-wise, or your customer, between people, which include your employees and your customers? What's been the biggest challenge there?
Okay, with regard to people, one of the things we Payless did at the beginning of the year was we actually had a new position called Chief People Officer. And the purpose of this position was to have closer connection with not only our customers, but our employees. And it could not have come at a better time. At the onset of COVID-19, Our Chief People Officer was responsible for taking all the information available from CDC and World Health Organization and incorporate it and helping work out our SOPs and our policies for our company. The other thing that was very critical is addressing the fears, anxieties, and concerns of not only our customers, but our employees. As an essential business, obviously there was a lot of fear with our employees and anxiety at the onset. So it was very important to put that anxiety at ease by ensuring that we had plans in place, we had SOPs, that everything we could do to provide protection for our employees with our PPEs, that they had it. We continue to this date. Every time we have, during PCOR 1, we are giving our employees $50 gift certificates. We've been doing that from the onset, every pay period. We've extended our employee discounts throughout the entire COVID period. But with regard to our customers, we make sure that our Chief People Officer answers every inquiry on social media and on the phone. If people have questions, people want to know. They want to know, how safe is the store? What are your store hours? What is golden hour? Am I a vulnerable person that I can go in at 5 a.m. as opposed to 6 a.m.? It's so important during this period that people get their questions answered, because we are really in a time that's uncharted. Nobody really knows. So I with regard to connectivity and reaching out to people, I think that having a designated person in place, and we had a consistent message, that message was conveyed consistently.
I'm going to say, one of the things, our 3 pillars with junior achievement is financial literacy, work readiness, and entrepreneurship. And when I think of entrepreneurship, we just celebrated 100 years with junior achievement, and we have a book written was called The Entrepreneur Attitude. And the thing about the entrepreneurial attitude is really about, the pivoting, but innovation and change. When companies first start out, the whole thing about innovations, and KUAM, you guys are, Krista and Maria, you're kind of feeling it with these students. They're ready to move and change whatever. And when you've been around for 70 years or even 10 years, whatever, you kind of get stuck in your own thing. So I look at, even in my own business, I see this pandemic has just opened me wide up globally, because now I'm working with people globally, that these tribes that I belong to, that, thanks for the information, but I kind of stayed on Guam. Now I'm going to say about 80% of the work I've been doing has all been in other countries, which is really kind of cool. So I'm going to just ask Maria and Krista, what has changed for the better that you will continue to do in the future that you've learned from going through, the pandemic, or just, having to make that change unwillingly? That's just it. Some people are still complaining that, we're this, and they're so into the victim mindset that this is happening to me versus this is happening for me. So what is KUAM, how have you guys changed and will continue going forward?
Well, I think one of the things, we've been prospecting change for quite some time, and innovation, because, when I started out in the broadcast media 20 plus years ago, the world, it was the new kid, or it was like the hottest thing on the block, right? And print was always talked about as the dying medium. Now we're becoming, we're kind of struggling to adapt to survive, or we've been, and we were prospecting things down the road, already making plans. We have a great, we've really integrated our digital media, our social media. It's changed operationally, even before COVID. it became like a central part of our operation. When this happened, we already had, some measures in place that we knew we performed on different platforms, on our multimedia. We like to think of ourselves as a multimedia company, but this really just accelerated the change. So it's like, okay, this is not happening in 2 years. This is happening now. Let's make these plans. And so fortunately, we've been able to adapt. Again, I think one of the most challenging thing to Kathy's, which she was talking about earlier, is just maintaining, just adapting to maintain that, even though, we really had to quickly work on setting up a virtual environment, because the majority of, we only try to keep a small skeleton staff of essential people, the people that bring you the news and that have to be here at the facility. But for the most part, once I think it was March 15th or whenever that happened, the first executive order, everybody just had to go work from home. We had to make sure that they technologically they were set up with the tools they needed to adapt. And so that's kind of been the challenge, is that these are all things that we knew and that we want. We want to be more cloud-based. We want to be able to work from anywhere. We want to be able to bring you the news or information or work, virtually. But it just like lit the fire, so to speak. Krista's experience, I know she can speak more to, because she actually, in broadcast media, our customers are advertisers. So I know that her team has had some challenges, and because a huge part of sales is meeting face to face, working, going to coffee, to lunch, and to that. So her world has dramatically changed. I think on the other, operationally, fortunately, yes, we've had things in place. We've had to make some, had to adapt and had to look at financing, tools of the trade. But it's really opened up and given us more access, and also had given us a space where we can rely on user-generated things, so that it's more of a collaborative. And I think that our viewers, listeners, they enjoy that because they feel like they're part of the process, which they are. And, keeping the community at the heart of what you do is so important. So I don't know, Krista, if you want to share some of the challenges you faced in your position.
Yeah, thanks. First and foremost, I started back with KUAM 2 weeks before the shutdown. So I had 2 weeks of office environment and trying to meet and get to know and build the team, to lockdown and going into everyone's living room, as I am right now. So it was definitely a challenge. But one thing I have to say, I am extremely proud of Marie and Eli and the board of KUAM for the decisions that they made very early on, taking every employee's health into consideration, making adjustments on the fly. I mean, you talk about having to be flexible. We had people who worked in the same office next to each other, across from each other, that was nowhere near 6 feet of distance. And we are expected to still put on radio, television news, television programming, podcasts and other online things. And it has just been honestly a privilege to be a part of all of this transition and change. And I think it shows when we talk to our clients. We have been so truly blessed during all of this, because, as Marie said, everyone started to think TV was maybe not a viable media anymore. And now all of a sudden, during COVID, more and more people are home. More and more people are asking, what's on TV tonight? More and more people are asking, hey, when is that show on? And do you guys stream that? Right? So we have had an enormous kind of rebirth of television media, and that has definitely lended to our success during this time of COVID. But we've also had to rely heavily on relationships. Like Marie said, we can't do the lunch thing and the presentation live and, and in color other than on a screen. And so we have to rely heavily on relationships and trust that our customers and advertisers understand what we're going through, still want to support us. And so we have been blessed with quite a few of those friends in the community that have said, man, KUAM, I see what you guys are doing, and I'm excited for you. I'm excited that, you guys are still going strong. We launched a new radio format in the middle of all of this. We launched a new radio morning show that now is a multi-platform morning show. We really have not let COVID get us down. We have just continued to persevere and work with everyone who wants to work with us. So, that's kind of my take on it. But it has never been a better time to be affiliated with KUAM, in my opinion. So.
Well, one of the eye-openers about this whole thing too is that that's happened is that we realize that it's a multi-generational, we speak to people across different mediums. We still have a core radio and television viewing audience, but then they're, maybe other members in their household follow us on social media. And so I think part of our mission or our vision is just to maintain that bridge across generations with whatever media that they consume, whether it be digital, social, TV, radio. So it's a challenge, but it's a great time. It's exciting. The only thing I do miss is that a lot of our energy at KUAM is derived from that in-person environment where when we get buzzing, we've had to adapt to doing things virtually, and sometimes it does get frustrating over Zoom or on the phone, but I think that's been the biggest challenge. But we're learning to live with it. It's just nicer to have that water cooler energy flowing. I'm sure the world is going through that as well.
Actually, Payless is doing the same thing as well. At the beginning of the year, we weren't planning on launching our online shopping program. We had talked about it in 2019. We had done our research, but we weren't quite ready. And then when the pandemic hit, it started off, our customers wanted, through the mayors, were requesting for curbside pickup shopping for them, the vulnerable ones. And we were able to manage that through the mayors, but it was not, it wasn't digital. It was not electronic. It was all the manual way of doing things. And so we accelerated the plans that we started last year. So this opportunity with the pandemic forced us to get to where we should have been. If I could have done something in hindsight, it would have been to kick off the online shopping program earlier rather than later. But here we are today, and this week we launched our online shopping with curbside pickup. And it's something that has been long overdue for our island. We're really excited about it. We started 2 weeks ago. We did a soft launch with our employees, and we've limited it to 2 stores, our Mighty store and our Oka store. It's from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We have hired 12 new employees. These are new positions, and it's specific to the online shopping program. This really is phase 1. We're taking baby steps. We're going to eventually roll it out to more stores, maybe not all 8 locations, but definitely more stores. And then next year, we're looking at residential delivery. So we want to make sure that we go through this in a very methodical way and we get the bugs out of the system. But if you can go to our Payless website or download the app on through the Apple Store or Google Play. It's really quite easy. We don't have all 40,000 SKUs. We've narrowed it down to our top moving items. But our personal shoppers have been trained to look at quality, and if you have any questions, they take your number over the phone. So this week only, we've created an incentive. There's the fee of $5.95 is waived, so we can encourage people to sign up. So there is a fee if you opt to take advantage of the online shopping program. But again, this fills that void, that need from our consumers, people who want to plan their shopping, who want to practice safe social distancing. And we're actually realizing within the past 3 or 4 days that there's a huge market. We are slammed. And our average ring, our average basket is very similar to what's happening in the mainland. So we're working with a large company with our software, and statistics show that the average ring for online shopping is larger than your regular brick and mortar retail store. There will always be, I believe, a need for the brick and mortar store. There are people who want to come in, they want to personally choose your product, but online shopping, I believe, is here to stay. It was here pre-COVID. It's been gaining popularity. Every year I read the periodicals from supermarkets throughout the world, and it's growing. And I don't think that it's anything novel. It's gained greater acceptance. So from our standpoint, online shopping is something we've pivoted to in a faster period of time than we had actually planned.
Okay. So I guess, in somewhat wrapping some of this up is I just put a couple notes down here. And, first of all, relationships are built on what kind of value you give to each other, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a spouse, whether it's with your kids, but with your customers, with your vendors. It's really about the relationship, but it's what kind of value you give to them. So it's a matter of serving others. When you come from that servant leadership kind of a mode, and you're there to help customers, they will stay with you. They will keep with you. The other thing is I want the students to understand, Jay Jones in a couple weeks ago mentioned that, business is no different than what the students are going through right now. People leaving, coming, trying to figure out a product, trying to make the adjustment when something doesn't work, being with that, you're not supposed to have, you don't have to have all the questions. Go ask somebody else. Go do your research online. It's, we're all adults on this call right now, but the thing is that it's no different whether you're, 16, 17, or whether you're in your 30s or whether you're in your 60s. It's business is business, and it's a matter of being agile and resilient to whatever comes your way. So the students just have to see that what they're doing and some of the stress and everything is no different. It's always going to be there. So learn it while you're young. The other thing I put down here is, I want to just mention the whole things, so one of the things is the trade fair. We're not going to be able to have a trade fair this year. And I know Payless has allowed us to do trade fairs in some of your stores before. You're near the stores. A couple different companies have gone on there. And KUAM is always interviewing. Jason does a really good job with the students who raise their hand and they want to be on, that 5-minute segment that he does with some of these student companies to show their products. So KUAM has been very creative in the way. But like this year with the holidays coming up, and a lot of students have products that they like to sell during the holidays because our program ends in January. So one of the things that KUAM, I'm really excited, Marie, I'm going to lead into you because, you guys have always sponsored the pop shop at the museum. And this year, you get probably 75 vendors or something like that. It's ridiculous. And so this year you can't do it. So students, there is a special offer for JA student companies. So we might have some other opportunities, but Marie.
Okay. Basically, yes, Christmas Pops is our third annual holiday marketplace, and it's great. And unfortunately we can't do it in the way that we traditionally do it, but we didn't want to just say, okay, we're canceling it this year, let's not do it, there's too much going on. I feel like, I know Auntie Kathy talked previously about the importance of supporting local businesses, and we need to give them, a lot of them have segued, not just with the JA students, but also local artisans, entrepreneurs. They've also adapted their businesses to be online shops, whether it's through a platform like Etsy or just DMing over Instagram or something like that. So we want to still give them a platform to sell their products, promote, and so that we can all buy local and that we can keep money in our economy. So with that said, it's still in the planning phase, but we got all our heads together and we thought, okay, we're going to do this Christmas Pops thing as a virtual marketplace. And we have the means to pull this off because by now our digital team, they're so well versed in these Zoom productions. We've done like 3 or 4 with different organizations. We're planning one for election next week. So with that said, we're going to have it be a live stream, a broadcast, and then give these different vendors the opportunity to showcase their products. And then we're also identifying a website, or we have a section on our website where it would be a directory. So any local vendor that you see on this program, you can easily, through your phone, through our app, or through your desktop, go and research the product and give them some business and love, which they critically need. So with that said as well, because JA doesn't have or can't have a fair in person this year, we're extending and Krista and I were still trying to come up with a creative name for it, the JA Corner or the JA Workshop or something, where a portion of the program, we're extending an offer to JA companies at a discounted rate where they can either create a user-generated video, which will give you guidelines. People can create high definition videos from their phones nowadays, right? Or we can do a Zoom type interview where we showcase their business. But that would be incorporated into our virtual marketplace. And that premieres on November 29th as a live event. But the great thing too with social media, digital media, is that it will be this live event, but if you want to reference it or go back or watch it another time or watch it again, you can do it anytime because it's gonna live on in infinity on the internet. So we're really excited about it.
I'm really happy that you're doing that. I think one of the things is, when we used to have trade fairs, the students would just think about selling at the trade fair. And then they're competing with all the student companies around them, and a lot of people support those. So this is really good because students do have to realize there's so many other places to sell through. And link those, on your own Facebook or Instagram or TikToks, whatever. Throw that kind of stuff in there. Put the link, or just say visit us here. And get people set up. So I know they're going to have to come up with a landing page, and they should have one. They don't have to do a full-blown website. They just need a landing page. And then that kind of stuff can be in here. Just one piece of advice that you would give them above anything else, whether it's something you wish you would have learned a long time ago, or the one thing that you've learned the biggest aha moment since COVID.
I would just to speak to the theme of what we've been talking about this entire podcast is just a willingness to change and adapt to circumstances. I think that's been the biggest lesson for me, and it's something that I will try to impart to other budding entrepreneurs like those in JA. So that's mine.
Okay.
From our perspective, I feel that connectivity understanding the consumers, understanding what they want is very, very critical in identifying in planning your market, in creating a business plan. Connect with your customer. And we have found one of the biggest surprises was the impact of social media. How people connect and talk on social media, and being involved and answering questions and being connected. From our standpoint, that was somewhat of a surprise. We did not quite realize how big it was. And we really had to have somebody on top of it 24/7.
Okay, mine's kind of twofold. The first thing I think I've learned recently, and I've been in sales my whole life. My parents will tell stories about when I was a kid and I was selling things. But I think believing in yourself, having the confidence in yourself to develop the product the way you envision it, not taking shortcuts, not being flexible, but also standing your ground, if that makes any sense. Making sure that what you're putting out there is the best you can put out, and you have faith that it is something that you can be proud of. I think that is a lesson that I have learned recently.
Okay, here's another perfect example. We ended the podcast, we all said goodbye, and it wasn't until I sent off this recording to somebody else and we found out the ending had a big snafu. Something happened that got garbled up. So let me finish what Krista was saying. One, she was talking about confidence, believing in yourself, having a vision, and then she was talking about being organized, with a plan. Have a plan to reach your goals and follow that plan. And then, so you can see, students, that the advisors, mentors, even us on the board, etc., we learn from you as much as you're learning from the company program. So nobody has all the answers. Just get out there and ask. As far as for a business to be sustainable, you got to have creativity, innovation. It has to be taking place at all times. The two skills are resilience, which is how quickly you bounce back, and then once you're knocked down. And the second is to have agility, and how quickly you can, how agile you can be and pivot quickly. So I heard something recently the other day and took it to heart. There is always room for improvement, but you don't have anything to improve if you don't put it out there first. So as we sign off, as I signed off earlier, I'd like to again thank Kathy Calvo from Payless Supermarkets, as well as Calvo-Monge from KUAM, and Krista Gaza from KUAM. It's always a pleasure being around people who want to pay it forward. So again, students, have a great week. Remember, let the success of others be your inspiration. That includes us, we include you, and that includes everybody else within your team. So it's a great key to leadership and creating a team of leaders for growth and sustainable results around you guys. So enjoy another week. We'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.